Gentlemen, this is the bottom side of Irene. If you don't know what I mean by Irene, I strongly suggest you go watch the YouTube video, Let's Talk About Irene. We're going to use Irene here to demonstrate how to ground the grids on your 3500Z. So let's talk about why we ground the grids on our 3500Z. If you have the grid go bad on your tube, it'll back up and it'll blow out this choke or this choke. And how it'll present itself is that one tube will flare and get super bright, and the other one will not work or be dim. Okay? That's if it can pull any current through the caps. Usually it can't. Usually what shows up is one tube will get super, super bright, and then this electrolytic over here will explode. Pow! And so people will replace this electrolytic, and then they'll go and they'll put new tubes in it because this doesn't show that there's a break in the wire. And also let me say, even if there isn't a short in the grid on the tube can be perfectly fine. This choke gives out, or this choke gives out, the tube will flare, the tube will run away, and kapow, that electrolytic will blow up. Well, this is a problem that is strictly indicative of the Sb-220s. Okay? Drake, Collins, Henry, Kenwood, they don't have this problem. It's either they have a different style choke, which is more heavy duty, or they don't even choke the grids. The whole idea behind choking off the grids this way and running it through this choke is to help the tube be slightly more stable in 160 meters. And to make it sound justified, on the paperwork they say 80 and so on. Bullshit is what that is. Come to find out, now that I've met the president of Zenith Heath Kit, I have had many conversations with the head, what they call repair tech at Heath Kit Zenith. Back in the day, if you put the amplifier together, or their oscilloscope, or their TV, or any of their products, you put it together and you couldn't get it to work right, you'd send it in, and this was the guy that they sent in. He was like the MacGyver. He had the rolling mental index in his head of all the different problems and how they manifested themselves, and he knew right where to go and what to change and how to make it work. That was this guy. He's a friend of mine. But what he went on to explain to me was that the same engineer that designed this amp was the same engineer that designed the Sb-200 and a couple others that preceded this. Those particular tubes have a hard time being stable with pure grounded grid setup. So he took that same choking system and transferred it over to this design. It is absolutely not needed to have this choke here or any of these caps. It doesn't do you any good. All it does is allow you to be vulnerable to having the choke go bad, one tube become unstable, and it screw up your whole bias circuit. Okay? So that's why I say, just ground the grids, man. Just ground the grids. I don't think I've ever done a specific how to ground the grids video until today. I'm going to bust this video out in its own little separate segment, of course. Please feel free to go back and watch the Irene video. That's what this one's attached to. The first step to grounding your grids is obviously we're going to remove the chokes from the leads. We're going to remove the electrolytics, not electrolytics, pardon me. We're going to remove the capacitors from the chokes. This is a beautiful example of a hand-built amplifier. Whoever built this had some other previous electronic experience, and they did a wonderful, hear me when I say this, wonderful job. This thing is nothing short of beautiful, and I mean that seriously. This thing is really, really pretty. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to pull this cap, the cap attached here, this cap here, and this choke. We're going to pull them out of line. That's our first step. Okay. So we cleaned all the chokes, all the caps off everything. And then we went back with solder wick and removed all the solder from all the holes. Now I'm going to show you the textbook way of doing this, but it doesn't even need to be this elaborate. This is called Hillman wire. Hillman's just the manufacturer. This is the Home Depot, Ace, and Lowe's brand. You can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and Ace and buy a roll of this wire for about $8, $10. This is 16 gauge. You can even use 14 gauge if you wanted to. It cannot be enamel coated. It has to be bare wire. And the whole goal, and listen, the wire size, these tubes have been breathing through this wire that is thinner than an angel's pubic hair, and it's 3.5 miles long. And it's been doing it for 40 years, right? So this is not the situation where you want to go and put big giant copper plate thinking it's going to get you more power. It's not. All this does is makes the box more reliable for the future. That's it. Okay? I've had these show up where people have taken 1-inch wide plate and like tied all the pins together in this elaborate, crazy way. And really all it takes is just a little piece of wire that goes from here to here, then from here to here, then from here to here, and then down to here. Now I'm going to show you the textbook way of doing this. The textbook way. Which is, unless it's going through a hole, and we're bending it over, doop, just like that, you don't have a good connection. So then, I'm going to utilize bars. That's the other thing I want to say. Is the bars, I know everything's going to stay together forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But you don't have to. If you choose not to, you can literally take a wire, tie all 3 of these lugs together, and solder them down to ground. Just like this is done here. This has got the bar system where we've utilized the holes, and we've got hoops and everything. Actual physical mechanical connection along with, like, you know, by the book. By the book. Let's put this here. Put that there. So this isn't all that complex, but you guys would be surprised how many times I get a call per week where somebody's explaining to me that the one tube is flaring and the other one's not doing anything, and that one cap is blown up. And I probably say 15 times a week, ground to grids. And I get told about 10 times a week, no, I don't think it's that. To which I have learned to say, okay. Well, I'm not going to argue with you. If you have got a better knowledge of what's going on inside of this amp than I do, then good luck to you. Then why are we talking? You know what I mean? I'm just telling you from experience, when the one tube flares up, period. I've had guys call me and they catch it before the cap over here blows up. And they'll say to me, man, I got one tube. This is flaring up, getting hotter than hell. Okay, ground to grids. Okay, man. They call me back, man, that fixed it. Right on. And then I'll have another guy. I got one tube. It's flaring up hotter than hell. Ground to grids. Then they call me back 2-3 days later, man. Dude, I don't think that's it, because that electrolytic over there blew up. Well, now you got 2 problems. Now you've got to fix, usually when this cap goes up, this rectifying diode will go bad. So now you got to change this rectifier, find another 150 volt, It's usually about 16 microfarad, 25 microfarad. And you still end up having to ground your grids. I've had 3 people since this whole process has started with me teaching other people, where they call me up, they say, man, I got 1 tube, it's flaring up hotter than hell. I tell them to ground the grids. Then they call me back and say the cap blew up, which tells me they still haven't grounded the grids. They didn't believe what I said, so I don't know why they bothered to call me. Then they call me back to say that the cap blew up. And then they go through the hassle of getting a new cap. They put the new cap in there, and the cap blows up again. And they call me back and they tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. And then when I finally get them to send me a picture, they haven't grounded the grids. And it's because they don't know what the grids are or how to identify them. And so then I go and I draw a little pattern on there, and I said, take a piece of wire, go from A to B to C, then replace the cap, replace the diode. And then I usually get a text back, oh dude, I fixed it, thanks. Don't be afraid to ask. But that's it. This is how you ground the grids on a 3500Z. It is absolutely not necessary, and I don't care. There's guys out there that have got web pages that have got hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of words. Lots and lots of speaking and talking and technical jargon and shit to debate if this is necessary or not. I'm here to tell you, if this was necessary, this wouldn't be an Sb-220 only problem, number 1. Number 2, this amp doesn't do 160 meters. And number 3, why isn't it Drake, Collins, Harris, you know, Henry, all of those guys? Why don't they have the same parasitic system? Now, some versions of the 922A have a choking system, some don't. The ones that come through here, when they leave here, they don't have it in there anymore because it is a point of failure. This is the safest way to guarantee the life of the tube and to guarantee the life of the amp without failure. Because let's face it, those chokes that we just pulled out of here, they were probably made in the 40s for World War II. Then sat in a warehouse, God knows for how long, and here we are in 2022. 50, 60 years old. 70 years old. Ground your grids, boys and girls. You won't regret it. I'll see you, bye. If you found this last section of video to be helpful to you in any way, come over and join us on Patreon. Come help the channel out a little bit. Just show support. It's $1. Don't hesitate to come over there. There's 100,000 tricks like this, I know. And I'm willing to share them at the drop of a hat. And you can come join all the other guys over there that are learning. We're doing a bunch of fun stuff, and there's a ton of behind the scenes content. I put up a post every single day to show what I'm working on. Keep everybody in the loop. And there's a lot of very knowledgeable people over there, and it's a giant like think tank for amps and radio equipment. So come join us if you found this helpful, or if you found any of my other videos that I put up, all 2,000 some plus of them. Come join us. It's fun. There might be titties and beer. I'll see you, bye.